We have lots to discuss here in today's video, including some trade talk around a few teams like Montreal and Vancouver. We get the latest on an RFA standoff here with Luke Evangelista and the Nashville Predators. We have another update from Sportico that the NHL team values are continue to explode and increase in value. We'll discuss the latest details on that front on the business side of hockey. Plus, we have a lot more players on NHL waivers today. We also had a waiver claim, a couple of big signings, and some injury updates coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to discuss here in today's video. We're going to first quickly recap a few news items from earlier today that there are other videos on the channel on. I just want to recap it in case you haven't had a chance to watch those videos. But it was a busy day of waiver activity. We had a waiver claim today with the Lightning picking up goalie Phoenix Copley from the Los Angeles Kings. So it kind of raised some questions around Andrei Vasilevskiy. Is he okay? Is he not? He's missed time in camp. There's certainly some question marks around it. Right now, apparently, the plan with Vasilevskiy is for him to play this weekend in their final preseason game, and they're hoping he's ready for the season opener. Picking up Copley's basically some insurance, if you will. So we will see how things play out, but depending on Vasilevskiy's health, I don't know. Copley could maybe even end up on waivers again in the not too distant future. We'll have to wait and see. But obviously, the Lightning need some backup for the time being. Also, for new players on waivers today, we've got the Blue Jackets have Damon Hunt. The Flames have Rory Cairns, Ivan Prosvetov, Ilya Solovyov. We got the Oilers with Cam Dineen and Riley Stillman. The Penguins have Sebastian Aho, Danton Heinen, who's an interesting name. Maybe he could be a possible pickup. Phil Kemp, Joona Koppanen, Philip Larson, and Valtteri Puustinen. The Kraken have Ben Myers and Mitchell Stevens. Utah has Ben McCartney and Scott Perunovich. The Canucks have Vitaly Kravtsov, who we're going to talk about here a little further. And the Golden Knights have Dylan Coughlin and Tanner Lasinski. So another very busy day of waivers. We're probably going to get a bunch more tomorrow. We're not that far away from teams having to be down to their cap compliant 23-man rosters here for next week. So it's going to be a busy weekend of waiver wire activity, I would think here. Some big signings today as well. We got an early one from the Florida Panthers and defenseman Nico Mikkola. He signed an 8-year extension at $5 million per season. That's pretty good value for a second pair defenseman. The Panthers once again continue to lock up all their key members of their Cup championships here from the past 2 years. They have a large part of that team all locked up. Like I said in the video earlier, these are mostly good signings, at least they appear to be now, but a lot of these guys that are signing long-term deals are, 29, 30 years old, and they're all going to be signed till they're 37, 38. A lot of it, to me, is a bit of a reward for these Cup championships the past 2 years. I still think they're going to be a very solid team for at least a few more years, but, you have to wonder how some of these contracts will age, the last 2 or 3 years of them. At this point, they probably don't care too much. They're back-to-back champions, and for right now, they're kind of riding high, and they know they're going to be competitive for a while. So we'll see. But Mikkola, definitely a pretty good signing again. So that means between him, Forsling, Jones, and Ekblad, they've got their top 4 defensemen locked up long-term. Up front in the forward group, they've got a lot of guys, too, between Barkov and Tkachuk. Just signed Marchand long-term. Verhaeghe signed last year. Reinhart. Lundell signed for a decent amount of term. They've got all the guys that are important, except for Sergei Bobrovsky. He's the only one. I'll be curious to see what happens with him. He is actually into the final year of his contract. He could extend now as well. The Anaheim Ducks today also made a huge signing, making defenseman Jackson Lacombe the highest paid player in Ducks history. This was a shocking, to me, contract extension. I mean, I'm not shocked that they extended him. I'm a little surprised he got as much term and money as he did right off the bat. AFP Analytics was projecting a 5-year deal around $7.5 million. So this is definitely, I know 8 years is going to drive up the value more than 5, but to get $9 million at 8 years, with what Lacombe did last year, it has potential to be okay. I'm not saying it's horrible or anything, But of all the signings we've seen with some of these younger players recently, this one just to me does pose a little bit of risk. I just wonder, was last year his peak? Does he have another level he can hit above that? Is he going to be the long-term power play one quarterback? Those are just questions I have about him that mostly haven't been answered because of lack of experience at this point. But he does project to be a very good player, and he had a really good season, so I can understand the desire to lock him up. But just considering how Pat Verbeek and his management team have treated some of these younger players, look how they just grinded McTavish for what he got. And yet they get Lacombe done a year ahead at this astronomical number. Just kind of mind-boggling how they've prioritized here some guys over others. This is the first one that they've really seemed to come together a lot quicker and easier. A lot of them have been really long, drawn-out, grinding negotiations. So let me know what you think of the Jackson Lacombe contract extension with the Anaheim Ducks. Definitely a lot of money, great player, but I just think there is a little bit of risk there too, more than some of the guys we've seen sign lately. The Calgary Flames today also made an extension with their head coach today, confirming that head coach Ryan Huska has been extended for 2 more years. This would have been the last year of his contract as well. So counting the coming season, he'd be now under contract for 3 years in total. There's a lot of speculation as well that we're going to see a contract extension between the Edmonton Oilers and their head coach, Chris Knobloch. Things apparently are progressing well on that front, and we could see that as early as, well, really any time, but I wouldn't be shocked if it's done and announced before the beginning of the season. There's also a lot of speculation and chatter around McDavid. I don't know that it's really made progress per se, but I know that there is a lot of talk that the Oilers are expected to have a press conference early next week. So I to be honest, I think it could be a Knobloch extension. I'm not sure it's going to be a McDavid one. Some people are kind of, hoping it is, and I can understand why. However, we don't really know for sure, so we'll have to wait and see on that front. Some injury updates today, and we got a fair bit of them. The Lightning tonight lost forward Brandon Hagel. He left the game, that Lightning Panther game, just like we saw Ottawa Montreal the other night. Complete slobber knocker out there. Not really sure. Some of these rivals probably shouldn't be playing each other in the preseason. They don't need to be, taking at each other that viciously during the preseason when it doesn't even count. I know next year, obviously things are going to change a little bit. Reduced camp, reduced preseason, but I tell you, that was a nasty game. I didn't get to see much of it, but I did see the highlights, and Hagel did leave and did not return, so we'll monitor his situation. The Penguins have a couple injuries today as well. Jack St. Navani is going to be on a minimum of 6 weeks, and then Brian Russ is a minimum of 2 weeks with a lower body injury. The Sabres, too, had some announcements on injuries as well. They confirmed yesterday and then some more updates today that Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen did re-aggravate the lower body injury that kept him out of the early part of camp, and he will be out for a little bit, and his availability to open the season is now in question. So same goes, I guess, for Michael Kesselring. He's also battling an injury and may miss the beginning of the season. Some other guys like Owen Power, Bo Byram dealing with some stuff as well. But they're optimistic that they're improving enough that they'll be in the opening night lineup. Now, as I mentioned as well, we got a new report on team values in the NHL from Sportico, of course, who covers the business side of sports. And I tell you, the NHL team valuations have been absolutely exploding, which is not exactly shattering earth-breaking news here. We know this has been steadily increasing, but now let's looking at it over a longer period of time, they're still continuing to increase at a pretty high level. Over the past 3 years, league average value has increased by 108%. Right now, their still average value of a team is still lower than the National Football League, the NBA, and MLB, but they have closed the gap. Their team values have been increasing at a much higher rate the past 3 years than all three of those other major sports. A few other things, though, that are details out of this report. For one, the average team value now is over $2 billion, which is why I believe that if and when we see expansion again, and that's what the expansion fee is going to be. If an average team costs $2 billion, why wouldn't they expect that from a brand new one? I mean, look at what the Golden Knights and the Kraken paid. That's going to be considered peanuts compared to what the next teams will pay. The biggest increase from the year over year is the Florida Panthers. No big surprise there. They've won the last 2 championships. I'd hope their value is going up and their business is strong. They increased 51% over last year's report. So that's a significant increase. Another big one as well was the Carolina Hurricanes. They've increased 49%. They're up to $1.92 billion. Of course, the highest valued team still remains to be the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'll show you a quick snapshot of the league list here. Leafs at the top, most of all the top 6 near the top, all in the top 10 teams here of the NHL, but the Leafs at $4.25 billion. And then you get number 2 is the Rangers at 3.65 and the Montreal Canadiens at 3.3. You see other teams that are in the original 6 near the top there, like Boston, LA's up there pretty high, Detroit. So, I mean, clearly they're all moving up. Some of the teams that have recently been sold, look at Ottawa, they might be near the bottom of the league for value, but they were sold at like $900 million, and now they're, they've gone up about $400 million since then. So, and they haven't built their new arena yet, which is still in the works. So that's going to help them take a big leap once that finally comes. So, like, all the teams are chugging along at a pretty good pace here. So, like I said, they're slowly closing the gap between themselves and the other pro sports leagues. But it makes you wonder what expansion will look like. There is still a lot of belief that we're going to see expansion, and I'm not sure when it'll be announced, but I think we will see new teams within at least the earliest 2, but probably 3 to 5 years. I think 3 years is probably the realistic earliest. If you think about the fact that what the process is going to have to be like, some of the places don't even have arenas and everything lined up and all that. So going through what they need to go through, I think 3 is probably a little bit ambitious, with 4 or 5 being more realistic. But I wouldn't be shocked if we saw an announcement on that sometime in the next year. We'll have to wait and see. We know the league's not going to open a formal process. Teams and or groups will be meeting with them when they're ready and making pitches and see if they get accepted or not. So we'll see where things go on that front. Now, a couple other things too as well. We want to look at some trade talk for Montreal and Vancouver, which we'll get to here in a minute. But we do have an update on a couple other situations. One with the Carolina Hurricanes. There was a lot of reports here in the last, it's probably been about a week or so since we've seen these, but there was reports that the Hurricanes were one of the teams that were heavily involved in negotiations with some of the players from the Team Canada 2018 World Junior team that were just acquitted in the SA trial and are trying to make a return to the NHL, and that the Hurricanes were at one point heavily rumored to be signing both Carter Hart and Michael McLeod. Now the latest intel on Carter Hart, that he's most likely going to Vegas, but Chris Johnson had an update tonight with his sources indicating that the Carolina Hurricanes are not going to be signing either of these players, and they're not going to be signing anybody from that group. There was a large portion of their fan base, or at least it appeared to be, at least online. I don't know exactly what the numbers would be. If you're, a Canes fan, or you're, not happy with this reports, let me know. But I mean, essentially, there was a big pushback from the fan base, and I think that played a huge role in them kind of changing their mind. A lot of people threatened to not renew season tickets and that type of stuff, and not support the team like they used to. I'm not sure how widespread that was, but I definitely saw enough of it online that I do think that played a role in their decision here. But I'm not sure where McLeod could end up. But right now, the only one we've really heard anything really on his heart, who's expected to sign with Vegas. Another update too between the camp of Luke Evangelista and the Nashville Predators. I know one update that came today from Frank Saravalli. He indicated that the very original initial offer from Nashville to Evangelista's camp was a 2-year deal at only $1 million. I know a lot of people are using the Jack Quinn contract with the Sabres as a comparable. Probably looking at 2 years, something around that $3 million range, maybe a little less, maybe a little more. And well, here we are still, only a few days from the beginning of the season. We're quite a ways through camp now. and he's yet to sign. He's missed all of camp so far and could miss the remaining part of it. It's hard to say when this is going to be resolved. A lot of NHL reporters haven't had a lot of good intel on it, but the fact that they're lowballing him this way, it goes to show you that it's no wonder we don't have a deal yet. I know Friedman yesterday, I believe it was, or in the last day or two, had a report saying that the team, the Predators, they had a number that they wanted to get him to sign to that they thought was fair, and they weren't really budging, and they haven't really budged a whole lot since the beginning. So if that's what the offer was $1 million over on a 2-year deal for $1 million AAV, I mean, that's not much. There could be a significant gap here, and it's really difficult to say how this is going to end now. It's hearing this kind of news to me, it's not even so much if and how they close the gap, but does it end in a trade? Is he going to get frustrated at some point and be like, okay, if you're not going to come anywhere close to this, why don't you just move me? We'll see. I mean, for an aging team that didn't have a great success, rate last year, you'd think they'd be trying a little harder to get him signed. But yeah, Barry Trotz's tenure as GM, he was a great legendary coach, had a great career. So far, his time in management, definitely questionable to say the least. Now, on the trade front, the Canucks, according to Rick Dhaliwal, have indeed been trying to gauge the market here on Vitaly Kravtsov. As we saw today, he was on waivers, so he's available for pickup. We'll see if he clears or not tomorrow. Just because he doesn't get picked up doesn't mean we won't see a trade. Prime example, look what happened to Connor Ingram, as I mentioned in that video. It's not unusual for a player to clear waivers and then end up getting traded afterwards. That way the acquiring team isn't obligated to keep him at the NHL level. He's already cleared the waiver wire, so that means that he can go to a new team and be in the minor leagues. They can call him up later and see how it goes. But ultimately, if they pick him up on waivers, they have to keep him on the NHL roster. And another team may not be completely sold that that's the best idea. Kravtsov wasn't with the team last year, played over in the KHL, came back to the NHL this year, and so far hasn't really worked out. He got cut again. So clearly, we will see what the future holds for Kravtsov. But the Canucks, according to Rick Dhaliwal, have been checking around the league, trying to see if there's another team he could go to gain a fresh start and to see if he can get more of an opportunity. Now, same goes for Montreal Canadiens youngster Joshua Waugh. After he was recently cut here in the last couple of days from training camp roster and sent to Laval in the AHL, there's definitely some of their Montreal media that felt that this could be the end of Joshua Waugh's tenure with Montreal at the NHL level. Hard to say for sure if and when he gets dealt out of the Canadiens organization, but they said that they wouldn't be surprised if he and his agent go to the Canadiens looking for a trade to get a fresh start, to get more of an opportunity in another organization. Like I said, a lot of people thought it was at least a year ago or more that the time has kind of passed him by here, and that some of these other players are having more success and kind of generating more interest amongst the internal management team and the fan base, and that he's been passed over essentially. So we will see what happens here, but clearly, Joshua Waugh's time in Montreal is probably up, at least with any kind of hope. I mean, at this rate, you could say he could be the first call up, but why would they bother calling him up if they don't see a long-term fit for him in Montreal? I mean, maybe they'll call up a player that they feel would better benefit from the experience and that could join them on a full-time basis later. They're not going to necessarily feel that way about Waugh. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. To me, I think he's a prime example for a fresh start. Obviously, a guy like Kravtsov in Montreal or in Vancouver. Could we even see those two guys swap for each other? I mean, obviously, Jeff Gorton would know Kravtsov. I don't have any intel to suggest that those guys have been talking, but there were two players in similar type of spots that could benefit from a change of scenery. Maybe that could be an option that we see. Joshua Waugh might be able to find his game and quickly find a role with the Canucks. It's kind of hard to say. But yeah, makes me wonder with talking about both these scenarios. I didn't go into this video thinking I was going to mention them being traded for each other, just that they're in similar predicaments. But that wouldn't be the craziest thing I ever heard either. So we will see what happens. But let me know your thoughts on all of today's news and rumors in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.